order. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Morton?
Present.
Mr. Stuchel?
Present.
Mr. Edwards?
Present.
Ms. Hausfeld? Here. Mr. Schildmeyer?
Present.
Mr. Culbertson?
Present.
And Mr. Estep is absent.
As the record shows, 6 members are present, 1 member is absent. Members of council, what is your pleasure on approving the written minutes of the February 22nd council meeting?
Mr. President,
Mr.
I
Edwards.
pray. I like us to make a motion that we adopt the minutes. That's why I don't make motions too often.
Seconded.
A motion by Mr. Edwards, seconded by Mr. Morton, to approve the written minutes of the February 22nd council meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Just a reminder, everyone I think has been given a copy, but the next council meeting, March 28th, will be Scout Night. So please have a report for your Scout that night. So the third thing on the agenda is to discuss changes to the rules of council. It's the section under the president of council. I was going through it looking for something the other day, and I think this is back from when the president pro tem used to run the committee of the whole meetings instead of president of council. So in a nutshell, section I3 excuse me, reads that the committee of the whole shall consist of the members of council only, and the president of council shall run the committee of the whole meeting. And then the next sentence is the president pro tem presides at all committee of the whole meetings. So I'm proposing to change to eliminate the president pro tem presiding at all council meetings, and for it to read the president pro tem, in the absence of the president and council, shall run the committee of the whole meetings. And then there's another section in 5 for the beginning, for the council meetings, that says if the president pro tem, or if both are absent, then it would follow the succession of the committee on committees. So if nobody's opposed to that, I would entertain a motion to make that change, and I'll get with Ms. Culbertson tomorrow to make that change to the main copy.
Mr. President,
Mr. Schultmeyer.
I'll make a motion that we make those changes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Schultmeyer, seconded by Mr. Culbertson to make the changes to section I3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. I will take care of that tomorrow. We'll move to reports of administrative officials. Mayor Stuchel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd first like to thank everyone who participated in Bill Helton's final ride home and celebration of his life this past Saturday. It was great to see all the orange ribbons and the people lining the route as we honored a life well lived. His celebration of life included a very diverse group of people who Bill impacted throughout his entire life. We'll definitely have a void in the village, and we will continue to honor him on August 3rd, as it will be declared Bill Helton Day in St. Bernard during the German luau. Scout Night, of course, will be Thursday, March 28th, and I'll be having my pre-meeting with the Scouts before the regularly scheduled meeting. Also, this week I attended the annual voting meeting for the Hamilton County General Health District, their District Advisory Council this past Tuesday. It was very rewarding to be there and to be part of that as a collaborative group. As you all were aware, we've received funds to be applied towards the Vine Street repair project, as we had previously discussed. We have evaluated the street and feel it is just fixing the current compromised areas would not be in our best interest. So we're wanting to move forward with the bids to repair the areas where the roadbed is deteriorated, repave from McClelland to Burtis, and then add Burtis to Orchard and the first section of Leonard off of Burtis. Total repair cost, including paving, speed cushions for traffic calming in particular areas, striping of crosswalks, would be approximately $800,000. Paving Burtis to Orchard, small section of Leonard is approximately $100,000. Design, engineering, and administration is $90,000, which would put us at a total cost of $990,000, less grant funding of $284,200. So we would be asking for local funds of $705,800, which we would be asking to take from reserves to put towards street improvement projects to deal with our dilapidated infrastructure. So we are moving forward with bidding. There isn't anything that has to be put on the table as far as this evening. I wanted to make you aware of what we're doing. The engineering firm that JMA Consultants, will be going out to bid on our behalf, and then we'll be coming back to you with this, I guess, increasingly deteriorated portion of Vine Street that we have. It's going to be challenging at the same time trying to do the project. But again, if we wait, we're going to be another year out, and then we're going to be dealing not with just the Norwood Lateral project, we're going to be dealing with the I-75 project. So we can't win, but we do need to do it while we have the opportunity before it gets worse, because it is a pretty rough ride. Also, we'll need to hold 2 public hearings for the upcoming round of CDBG funds for public improvements, and I am proposing having them on Thursday, April 11th and Thursday, April 25th. This has to be completed by the end of April. So I wanted to ask the President of Council's advice on this as far as whether we, basically start, our regular meeting, the hearing at 7 and then go right into our regularly scheduled meetings, or whether we start at 6:30, for those 2 hearings that have to be done. One requires the majority of council be present, the other doesn't, but to me, it makes sense to just have them both on council nights.
That's a tough call. I don't know. And these are public hearings on,
So when we go through annual rounds for the CDBG funds, where Jennifer Batter comes in, explains what we apply for, and it's over a 3-year course, like, we have to do the hearings, explain what, hear what potentially the proposed funding could be applied towards, and maybe has some opinions. A lot of this can be projects and whatnot, so, we want to try to, again, keep that moving forward, so we don't, let that go. But anyhow, she'll lead the hearing, we open it up, she gives a description of the project, what we would be doing, but I guess the timing would make sense to do it before or start out with public hearing before.
just wonder if it wouldn't be easier to move the committee of the whole and the council meeting to 6:30 to kind of allow people to have more, I don't know how much participation you're gonna have, but it's just my thought. Doesn't matter to me one way or another. I'll actually be missing from the 25th meeting. We just had that discussion. Mr. Schultmeyer will be running the meeting, so, if you wanna just start them both at 7 when the meetings are scheduled to start, as long as we advertise it, I would think that.
So, yes, we actually have, more or less, we actually have to advertise it in the newspaper as well. So, yes, that would be my proposal.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. Thank you. Auditor, Ms. Brickwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess before I start my report, based on what the mayor said, moving forward, is council in support of the Vine Street project for the funding? I mean, if you're not going to approve the additional fund, or using the investments, then we don't want to go forward with it. So I guess that's one thing that, if you just, give your opinion, would be nice.
Anyone?
Mr. President,
Mr. Morton?
I would like to circle back with the mayor and get some more details on this before formally making opinion. That's why I'm mentioning this in my report as well, but we're planning on rescheduling the finance committee meeting that was recently canceled so that we can sit down and discuss those details to form a more educated opinion. So don't have opinion right now, but we will later this month.
Is that okay with our time frame?
It may not, it may just have to call a special meeting so that you can figure that part out, yes.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much Vine Street's collapsing, as you can see it when you drive down it. And so, and we've had an issue with the school children and the street calming. So I'll be kind of blunt, I don't think we really have a choice in this matter with it collapsing, it being our major thoroughfare, but it's council spends the money, so I guess it's up to you guys if you wanted to collapse or fix it.
Mr. President, so part of the issue is that basically our engineering firm came back with an approximate estimate just now. The problem being is that trying to get the work done during the summer months. We can't do this project while school's in session. It's not even an option. And so, and I'm just putting that out there that with that being said, if we want to try to accomplish it within that time frame, because again, with the issue being with drop-off and pickup in front of St. Clement, And there's also an issue with settling roadbed that they're not certain as to whether or not it's a sewer problem. There's gonna have to be some major excavation. We also, while this is all going on with the Norwood lateral closure, complicates things too, but we can't do it at the same time while school, there's no way around it. So, I don't know if you wanna go ahead and try to reschedule your meeting soon. I mean, if we need to discuss this with, I can't wait a month.
Oh, Mr. President, yeah, this is not a matter of rescheduling it a month out, it's pushing it a week, but we can reconvene and make sure that that's aligned with the necessary timeline, for sure.
I guess at this point, and that's great, are all the other council members gonna be there at his meeting? Do you have any opinion now? Because as we're going forward with this, I mean, we'll discuss it there, but I think we kind of wanted to discuss it here also.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Okay.
Connor, when do you plan on rescheduling the meeting for?
Let me make sure I'm getting my dates. Sometime Monday through Thursday, if not this next week, but the following week.
The week of the 25th?
I believe so,
Yeah,
yes. And we can absolutely discuss it now.
I can be there for that week.
Okay,
yes, For sure.
okay.
And then to answer your question maybe directly, Peggy, I'm in support of moving forward. I love the idea of talking through it during the meeting, but I'm like 99% sure we're gonna have to go do it, right? But it's great to understand it better, but I'm in support of moving forward, and we'll be here for both the meetings Jonathan requested.
Okay, I guess my confusion was we used to just discuss projects with everybody. I guess we're not, I guess we're doing it different. Okay, you can handle that one. On what I have.
Can I
on-
ask a question real quick about
Yeah.
that? If I could talk to them. I always thought that Vine Street was a county road. Do we get any money from the county for that? Because from way back when, I seem to remember Murray Road was a county road, Vine Street was, maybe Ross Grove. And I thought they took care of most of that.
Mr. President,
Mayor.
that's not true. So basically, they make a contribution. We did get grant funding for the repair portion. So it was a 50% matching grant for what they had estimated us to go and just patch the areas. When I don't mean just throw, it is a major excavation, but it would not have taken care of repaving, basically milling and repaving Vine. So at this point, we did not qualify for anything else, but if they're doing all the work at that time, to me, it only makes sense. Doesn't mean that we're not gonna be going out for other funding projects, like what we just have we have other paving that's going to be done, and they're actually will be making us aware of any other funding options as well. But there isn't gonna be anything else that we're gonna qualify for, and we can't depend on them to just say, okay, fine, it's a so-called state route. It's still our responsibility, and we have to apply for the funds when they become available. But as the road becomes further deteriorating each day, it becomes more dilapidated to the point where if they're gonna be digging it up, they might as well go ahead and mill and repave. But we are gonna be seeking other options. There's other state funding, and also we're working on Greenlee. We're in the second round for the SCIP grants on that. We did not win on the first, so we're still trying, because again, we know that there's other areas that need to be done. But the fact that Vine Street being our main thoroughfare, that is getting rougher and rougher, that, we need to get it done before it becomes a bigger problem, especially with the collapsing sewer that they believe is happening.
Mr. President,
Ms. Housefeld.
I am all for going forward with it. My only concern is, one, the traffic I know is heavier now because of the Norwood lateral being closed. And I think that's gonna put a lot more back road traffic with having that done, but I do understand the time frame. And the only other concern that I have is, I know the last time that we did Vine Street, right after it got done, they had to dig it back up. So I just hope if we do it this time, we do it correctly, and it doesn't result in having to dig anything back up like it did the last time.
So, Mr. President, I'm not certain exactly the exact nature of having to dig it back up the last time, other than the fact that the areas where, when we went for the streetscape project and all the underground utilities were put in, and part of our problem is that, is in the areas that they actually trenched. we need to make sure that that area is restored properly so we don't have further settling. So, I mean, we're fixing something from some time ago, but it's well beyond any time to be able to go back and say, hey, you know, we can, maybe it wasn't done properly. But the fact that it continues to settle on a regular basis, and again, I am concerned that if we don't do it now, and in the next phase of the I-75 project, which will last a whole lot longer than the lateral, that I don't know. I mean, I feel like this wasn't planned. So when we actually discussed this before for this summer, it was not something where the major project for the lateral was announced with an exact time frame. So, you know, we were holding out because I actually wanted to start on this project sooner. The engineering firm discouraged us because of the difficulty with the school traffic.
And Mr. President,
Ms. Brickwood.
and I hope this makes sense. I know sometimes people think we try to rush things through. In this case, I don't know how many meetings we have had. When it comes to and you might understand this a little bit more, Chris, when it comes to these grants, it's like these different time frames, and so we meet one, and we don't know if we're gonna get the next one, then we try for another one. So we don't come back to you until we finally have everything, you know, dotted and crossed, but usually it's then it's time to go. But it's like we have been, like you said, we've been working on this one for quite a while. We just found out like 2 weeks ago. So now we're trying to figure it all out. We're working on Greenlee. There's another, Orchard was being worked on. I mean, there's so many different road projects right now. And so it might seem like we're coming at the last minute, but we really aren't. It's just we are in the time frame of all these grants, and when they give us permission and from when we get approval to come back to you, they don't have a big time frame for us to get approval, I hate to say. So I hope that makes sense.
And one last thing, Mr. President, there are possibilities at times that, and with this one in particular, where certain grants can be stacked. So we did receive funding for one portion of this, again, which was deemed as repair. So we were looking at potential, you know, sort of funds and other opportunities, but the timing did not work out, or we would have done so.
Okay, any more questions on that before I do my report? Okay. I do have a couple additional appropriations. One being, there was an accident and we received a reimbursement from the insurance company for $4,330. We are going to repair the damage that the car caused. I've put the check in the general fund, but in order to use the money from the check, we need to appropriate it in the correct fund, which would be 05 MP9 Streets and Sewers for $4,330, the exact amount of the check we received. 012 I-9 Professional Services under the legal. We need an additional $10,000 in there. The bulk of that that was not budgeted for, that we didn't know about was, the tax, was it tax abatement, or what'd you use the legal counsel for? The tax codes, yeah, so we need to put some more money in that because we had to do that with the tax department, and it took up more, so we were just asking for $10,000 into that one. And then my only other question, and this doesn't need to be discussed tonight, but I know at some point we were talking about the shred day, that we might need to put some additional appropriations in for that. I'm not sure if we still do or what the amount is, but just a heads up, I just made me think of it. And that's all I have right now.
Mr. President, can I respond to Mrs. Brickwick's last comment? So we're gonna take that out of community funds. So basically from the rec department. So we have the funds available to do that there for the shred day.
Oh, okay, so I don't have to worry about that?
No,
Okay,
you
okay,
don't.
that
We're
I did
good.
not know. Okay,
We're
thank
good.
you. Then that concludes my report.
The only other thing under you was discuss moving the monthly.
Oh, that's up to you guys, yeah. Well, it was asked of me, if it got to the point where council members were missing meetings, if I could, dock pay or, just pay per meeting. Well, where your current pay scale, you're getting paid right at the beginning of the month, which is kind of odd anyway, because some people got paid before they even worked. So the question was, could I move it to the middle of the month? And I easily could. Your next paycheck then would be the middle of April. The April, billing cycle. I don't know the date off the top of my, I think it's this, something like that, yeah. So it's up to you. It's absolutely no problem for me to do it. And I guess my question is, if we do that, the best way to do it would move all the monthlies, not just council. We'd have to move like recreation and, just a few other ones that we have. But I have no problem doing that if that's what you want.
Any thoughts, council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Culberson?
it doesn't matter to me either way. To be honest, I don't feel strongly opinionated about it.
Mr. President,
Mr. Schulmeyer?
I think, Peggy, part of this was in response to a question I brought that had to do with the lost contracts and claims issue we've taken up about
Right.
what happens if people miss, and is one of the things docking their pay at some point. So thank you for looking into that, and we'll include that in our response when we come back from lost contracts and
Okay.
claims.
And my suggestion is, in all honesty, I think it probably should be that way, because people are getting paid before they even worked a day of work, and with tax dollars, I don't think we should be doing that. So my suggestion is to move it to middle of month, but you'll just have to let me know before the middle of April, the beginning of April, if that's what you want to do. Okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Morton?
one quick question. If this does go through, and I'm just curious about how the transition would look, would people be getting paid ahead of time for that first time that it transitioned, or would it be delayed by a half month? It would be delayed. Okay, so then my only comment there would be, and I bet that we would do this already, but do the due diligence of letting that be known, just so that folks who are maybe perchance living paycheck to paycheck, or they have auto bill pay, anything
Right.
like that set up, that they have ample time to accommodate.
Okay.
Thank you. Law Director, Ms. Van Valkenburg.
Thank you. You should have before you Resolution Number 2, 2024. I worked with Mr. Councilman Morton on that, and since it's his baby, I will let him speak to it more, but we do want that on the agenda for the council meeting next week, or in 2 weeks, excuse me. Also, I don't have, and I do apologize, I've been out of town with a family emergency. I will be preparing for you, and I do want on the table next week, we do need to prepare an ordinance to redo Chapter 105, which actually speaks to having wards in the council, or in the city, and electing council people by wards. We're now doing it council, citywide. So I think I need to take a look at that and need to get something ahead of, to you. So I'll be working on that this weekend and hope to get something out to you early next week to look at ahead of the council meeting. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nothing from Treasurer. Safety and Service Director, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was due to discuss the Microsoft Office. However, I investigated, negotiated, and came within my budget, so I will not need council's help at this time. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Tax Administrator, Ms. Helms.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the February 2024 monthly receipts for the tax office. Tax collections for February were $610,728. February 2024 is down 0.32%, or less than 0.5%, about $1,957 from February of 2023. Refunds for February were $46,798. Delinquent tax collected with capital recovery was $437.20. Delinquent tax collected with the Ohio Attorney General's office was $22,715.67. Just a little reminder, the St. Bernard tax returns are due on April 15th, 2024. This is the same date as your federal and state tax returns. Please be mindful that your St. Bernard tax return is not automatically filed when you file your state and federal using tax software such as TurboTax or H&R Block software. It is also not always filed when you go to a tax preparer as well, so just be mindful of that and check. In Ohio, you are required to file 3 tax returns, federal, state, and local, which is your St. Bernard. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We'll move to reports of standing committees. Finance, Mr. Morton.
Thank you. At the last Finance Committee meeting, we agreed to submit our village's budget information to Ohio Open Checkbook to make our budget even more publicly accessible. I have since heard back from the folks who manage that site and am in the process of completing their template. I do want to say thank you to our auditor, Peggy Brickweg, for helping set this up and for translating all of the municipal finance systems jargon for me. The Finance Committee meeting that was scheduled for this upcoming Wednesday has been canceled, but as mentioned, will be rescheduled as a special meeting to discuss the upcoming appropriations previously mentioned by, in the mayor and auditor's reports. Next, I do want to thank those who were able to attend March's Community Connect, and especially Chris Sauer from our Recreation Department for attending all 3 events so far to help answer questions and share the exciting programming they've put together for this summer. And lastly, before council today, is a draft of Resolution 2, which, if passed, would instruct the mayor to sign the Hamilton County Commission on Women and Girls' Pay Equity Commitment on behalf of the village. This resolution would solidify and exemplify our village's commitment to eliminate the gender pay gap, and I'd like to discuss this at the upcoming council meeting. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to put Resolution 2, 2024 on the table for March's council meeting.
Mr. Culbertson. A motion by Mr. Morton, second by Mr. Culbertson to place resolution number 2. Is it Mr. Schultmeyer? I apologize. Motion by Mr. Morton, second by Mr. Schultmeyer, to place resolution number 2 on the table for the next council meeting. Are all those in favor say aye? Aye. Opposed? So ordered. It will be on the table. Is that it then? Yes. Thank you. Service, Mr. Stuchel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the waste collection fees for the month of January 2024. $24,723.02 was remitted to the village. For the month of February, the service department had 26 dump trucks placed at residence, 33 dumpsters placed at residence, 230 special pickups at residence, 145.92 tons of garbage taken to the landfill, 23.1 tons of recycling material collected, 138 pounds of aluminum cans collected, 6 car batteries collected, 7,000 pounds of scrap metal collected, and 32 tires collected. Also, this past Tuesday, the Service Committee met for our second meeting of the year. During the meeting, we discussed an update on grants being worked on, such as the Residential Recycling Initiative program that was recently submitted through the Hamilton County Resource. We also discussed the upcoming Clean Up St. Bernard Day, which will be held on April 28th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., and the Community Shred Day, which will be on May 18th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. down at the Safety Center. More information about each event will come out in the weeks leading up to them. And that concludes the end of my report.
Thank you. Public Improvements, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was no need to have an improvement committee meeting this month, but I'd like to report on the pancake brunch fundraiser I attended and the information I received at St. Clement Cafeteria. It was the brunch raises money for the St. Clement Food Pantry. The pancake brunch was on February 25th. They served approximately 200 meals and raised $2,805 in free will donations. I toured the food pantry with Diane Smith. The food pantry serves mostly St. Bernard and Elmwood Place. It is open every second and fourth Monday of the month from 4:30 to 6:30 in the building right behind the school. The pantry serves approximately 40 families, about 300 people each time it's open. Most of the canned goods are from the Christmas light contest here in St. Bernard. There's also some frozen and hygiene products that's given away. I'd like to thank the St. Clement's Pantry for helping those in need in our community and showing compassion to those needing assistance. This concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Safety, Ms. Housefeld.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not have a report, but I will report that I am having a safety meeting on April the 2nd, 6 p.m. here in council chambers. Just no topic concern, just residents' concerns for the safety, fire, police department, that kind of stuff. Both chiefs will be here in attendance, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Laws, contracts, and claims, Mr. Schultmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next Laws, Contracts, and Claims meeting will be held on March 19th, which is next Tuesday at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. The agenda is picking up all 4 or 5 things we worked on last meeting: short-term and long-term rental program, the front yard garden / weeds ordinance, golf cart community investigation, and the council attendance policy. Also, we are looking into other possible censure / requirements for council members that, in addition to just attendance. So That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Schulmeyer, did you have a time for that meeting?
7 o'clock.
7, thank you. Marketing, Mr. Culbertson.
Thanks, Mr. President. The next St. Bernard Ludlow Grove Historical Society meeting will take place on Monday, March 10th. Not March 10th, it's next Monday, 18th, at 7 p.m. Please note that this meeting will take place at the Teen Center in the lower level of the municipal building. There will be a presentation given by Barb Jennings entitled "A City Within a City, Union Terminal." I would like to give a big shout out to St. Bernard resident Thaxton McMullen. Thaxton finished his high school swimming career at St. Xavier High School with 4 state titles. Thaxton won the 100 freestyle and the 200 freestyle. He was also part of the 200 freestyle relay team and the 400 freestyle relay team. Congratulations to Thaxton. Finally, the St. Bernard annual Easter egg hunt will take place on Saturday, March 30th at 1 p.m. at Vine Street Park. Toddlers through 8th graders are invited to join the egg hunt. There will also be a petting zoo. That morning, be on the lookout for the Easter Bunny riding around town. That concludes my report.
Thank you. At this time, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council this evening? Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Laura Jennings, and I live at 214 Bank Avenue. And I wanted to say that I had to move to St. Bernard for health reasons a little less than 2 years ago. And I have found everyone that I have had to deal with in St. Bernard has been wonderful. I had a new fence put in, and I had a disabled parking thing. Everything has been fine. But I wanted to bring up a point of contention about the swimming pool. And I figured this would be a good time to bring it up so that you would have time to deal with it. I have noticed many times when I have went to the pool that the decibel of the music in the pool was so loud that you literally could not speak to the person who was standing right next to you unless you shouted as loud as you could. Couldn't hear. And one day, I think at the end of the season, there was like a friends and family day, and I was there that day, and the music was much, much louder than it had ever been before. And I decided to try a little experiment. Oh, and by the way, I was the only person in the adult pools, the diving pool and the other pool. There was nothing but children. I was the only person in the deep ends of the pool. And there were 2 lifeguards on duty. And I thought, well, I'm going to try a little experiment. So I kind of flailed my arms and said, "Help," in a not a loud voice. Neither one of the lifeguards looked my way. You couldn't hear me. So I walked closer and closer to where the lifeguards were, and I kept yelling. I figured help was not a good thing to do, so I would flail my arms and say, "Hey." No one looked my way. Nothing was done. And I finally the one lifeguard was where the bottom of the slide is, and the other one was like at the baby pool. No one looked my way. No one addressed an issue. And if I had really been in distress, I would have drowned. And several times previous to this, there is a young gentleman who works at the pool, and if I would say something about the music being so loud, he would turn it down. Well, that particular day, there was a woman there, and I was told that she was the pool manager. And I brought this up to her. I said, and I told her what I did. I said, I just kind of flailed my arms, progressively louder, saying, hey, and I said, no one looked my way. The two lifeguards didn't. No one could hear me because the music was so loud. And she said, no, she could not turn it down. She said, these lifeguards have a zone that they are trained to look at a zone. And I said, well, whatever zone that they were supposed to be looking at, they never once looked my way. And like I said, I was the only person in the deep end of the pool, the only one. But she refused to turn the music down, so I left. And my concern is the music being so loud, and I love the music, brings back some great memories, but the decibel height of the music has to be a danger to people's ears, especially young children. And the other thing was, this is a safety issue. If these lifeguards are not looking in the zone that includes the entire pool, and you can't, they're not looking, and you can't yell for help because the music is so loud, it's a danger. And I wanted to bring this to you and just say, what can you do with it? I have checked with, I used to work for the Hamilton County Health Department, and I checked with the inspectors there, and they told me that there was not a maximum or minimum amount of decibels. That just isn't in the safety program of pools. So, and I checked with the Ohio Health Department and checked, and they said the same thing. There's no decibel height minimum or whatever that you can have at a pool. So I would like to bring this to council's attention and see if something can be done to, and the speakers are up high. But the people who are the lifeguards and the people in the reception area sit sort of under a canopy, so those speakers that are up here don't affect them. So they can talk and carry on a conversation because they're under that canopy. But when you're in the pool itself, and like I said, I have literally been there many times when you couldn't hear the person that was standing right next to you without screaming at the top of your lungs. So that's my concern.
Mr. President.
Mayor.
So I will talk to the pool manager about this to see if we can create some new standards for that. Other issue that kind of gets me a little bit to discuss is with reference to the zones. So if there wasn't zone coverage in the area that you were in, so, regardless of the noise, that still needs to be addressed. So I will talk to her. We'll have a meeting about this and or alert a lifeguard that they could still be heard.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless of the noise, if there was zone coverage in your area, that would have become an issue. So
Yes.
I will address it, and I appreciate you bringing this up and bringing it to our attention.
Okay, thank you very much. Everybody in St. Bernard has been wonderful that I have dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to address council this evening?
Mr. President,
Mayor?
non-audience, but I did have something I needed to bring up. I was kind of waiting to see if it went around to Mr. Culberson, but I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. So St. Bernard is kicking off a new chapter as a We Thrive community, and we want to invite everybody in the community to be involved and join us for our kickoff event on March 21st from 7 to 8 p.m. here in the main hall to talk about the We Thrive program in Hamilton County and how our village is planning to be part of it. After this event, there will be monthly meetings to discuss goals and actions towards improving the health and wellness of our community. Light refreshments will be provided, so please join us to help work to improve St. Bernard. So again, next Thursday, the 21st, from 7 to 8 p.m. in the main hall.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Fox.
Pre-09 Jackson, a old indoor swimming pool, tearing down. What?
Mr. President,
Mayor?
the indoor swimming pool, is that what you're speaking of?
Yes.
So yes, the old indoor swimming pool is being torn down they're currently working on that side of the high school right now and working and progressing their way around. But there is a new indoor pool that you can see actually the windows off of Aquatic Center Drive, right where the parking lot is for our aquatic center. Just looking right in the back side, you can see the new indoor pool, which is very, very nice. But there is a new one.
Yes. Basketball court, stay.
The basketball court, you're speaking of outside of the school?
No,
Or are you talking about in the pavilion?
no.
Oh. So the gymnasium will be staying, yes. So the only old structures that are gonna be staying are the board office and the original or old gymnasium. That will be staying.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I address Mr. Fox, please?
Go ahead, Mr. Edwards.
Tommy was his birthday yesterday. He was 48 years old. He's been my neighbor for almost 36 years. And I was gonna say, there's something under the microphone on that shelf for you, in case you showed up tonight.
Right where you were talking, Tommy.
There's a bag under there for you.
Should be an apology note saying that you are sorry you had to live by Mr. Edwards for all those years.
Could have been
Just
it.
kidding.
Yes.
Good job, Jeff. Anyone else in the audience wishing to address council this evening? If, Ms. Helms, go ahead.
Mr. President, I usually don't say anything, about resolutions and ordinances. I've been in local government now pushing 25 years. And I did read the resolution recently, the number 2, which is proposed for the next council meeting. And in my opinion, being in local government for a long time, I want to say it appears to be a little divisive. I don't feel like as a woman that's been in this field for a long time, that I don't need to empower myself or women by tearing down other groups. We can't grow as a society and we constantly blame everybody else, for things in the world. I just wanted to say that my employer has always been fair here. I love working for the city of St. Bernard. I love Mayor Stuchel, and, I've always been treated very well here. I've never felt discriminated against or paid unfairly. I've always been made to feel like I was part of the team, and I just wanted to let council know my thoughts on that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mm,
just
Mr.
a
Morton.
quick response to that. That is absolutely not the intention of this in the slightest bit. So I'm disappointed that it came across that way. Oh, of course, yeah. And something I want to emphasize is that the purpose of this is to reinforce that positive culture here that already exists. So this is not saying, oh, we're fixing something here. This is an opportunity that was proposed by the Hamilton County Commission of Women and Girls. They're recruiting different municipalities around the county to sign this commitment, and I do want to emphasize that it's a non-contractually binding commitment as well. It's not something that was specifically targeted to our village. It's something that is just trying to rally behind a good cause as a leader in this space. So it's the intention of it, and how I would like it to come across is the complete opposite of anything accusatory by any means. I fully trust, I would hope that we don't have any cases of pay discrepancy between genders here. What this is, it's saying that we as a village stand behind it as we have always stood behind it, and this gives us an opportunity to publicly share that out. And it helps across a breadth of different activations, whether we are recruiting new talent to come work for our village or anything else. The purpose of this would be to act as a clear stamp, a clear sign that we're one of the good communities, you know? So I just wanted to clarify that.
Mr. President?
So,
And I appreciate that. I do realize it was put together with the best interest.
Yeah.
However, line 2, in the way society is today, do we need to be divisive? Do we need to, point out white men versus white women versus black women? Does that need to be pointed out to still get the point across that, we believe in equal pay, for women and minorities? And that's what my point, I think, was.
Okay.
Mr. President?
hang on, Mr. Morton.
I just want to thank Leanne for actually speaking up about it, because I wrote myself a note here to discuss it in the audience participation, because you put it on the table for us to vote on it next week, but there was no discussion on it. There was no explanation of why you wanted to do it and stuff. So I was glad she brought it up and you discussed it a little bit more.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Morton.
Yeah, this is, again, the intention is not to be sneaky about this. Since next week would be the first reading, that's when I intended a lot of the discussion to be about. This was proposed to me by folks at the Hamilton County Commission of Women and Girls, which is led by County Commissioner Denise Driehaus. So it wasn't intended to skate this by and not have discussion tonight. I'm happy to have discussion about this by all means. It was just intended for the next time. And then in regard to the race-related content that's in this resolution, that is just how data is discussed. It's important to stratify it to fully understand the insights behind it. There isn't some ulterior motive to identify a race wage gap by any means, albeit that is also accurate and true. This is just here to offer background to discuss the importance of it. If the race-based element of this you see as divisive, by all means we can amend it, because I don't see that as a crucial part of this resolution. However, I do want to say that's just how data is discussed. It's important to stratify it so that we pull all of the insights that we can from it.
Mr. President, I'm going to go with Leanne. I'm going to be honest, when I saw that, I did not like that. I'm totally fine with everything. I like the gender-based, even if you just take that away, just gender-based wage disparity continues to exist. I just, and I'm gonna be very blunt, I say this to my children, if we keep dividing, we're never gonna get together. So when you keep pointing out what's different, I don't know how the next generation's gonna be together. And that was, and I don't think that's what you meant at all, but that's where I went. I'm like, well, here we got this versus this versus this. If you could just take that part out, and I don't even vote on it, but when I saw that, I was like, ooh, I just kind of cringed, even though I knew what you were going for. I was like, I just don't like when we start comparing different things like that, and that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, Mr. President, I understand where that point is coming from, and truth be told, I have to say that we don't need to go into an argument about whether or not that is true, because of course I believe something different. So if that is the only hindrance to passing this, by all means, this is just background. We can easily amend it and remove it. And Valerie, I hope you wouldn't mind removing it for next meeting.
Mr. President, I'll be happy to address that. I thought it was frankly important because it was based on recent information gathered within the greater Hamilton County area. And the numbers are what the numbers are. But if you feel that is divisive, we can certainly redact that.
According to their packet, if we're gonna keep the
Yes.
numbers, the resolution has that black women earn 66 cents, but their pamphlet says 77. I'm just saying, if we're gonna keep accurate,
And,
let's keep it accurate.
and this is just my 2 cents. Those might be Hamilton County numbers. This is St. Bernard. So I would like, I mean, we could probably get numbers from another state. You know, let's try it. That's why I think if we just take them out, I just think it would be better. And like you just said right there, we already have a discrepancy. I mean, but like I said, I don't vote on it, and that's just my personal opinion.
Mr. President, was this resolution discussed in a committee, or is that just something that you brought forward? I'm just, okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Schulmer.
I have probably a much more boring question about it. Valerie, do we actually have the ability to direct the mayor to sign things?
We can certainly suggest to him that he sign things, yes.
Well, I wonder, I mean, first of all, Connor, I know that your heart's in the right place with all this, so I hope you're not taking criticism like. I would suggest maybe we change the verbiage to not direct, but recommend or request or, you know.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, state your name and address for the record.
Nicole Klungel, 551 Church Street. I have a request that members of the administration who are making personal comments do so at the podium so it doesn't sound like they're coming from the administration. And I also want to point out that ignoring differences in race-based pay does not erase them. And that is why it's important to make that acknowledgement. And Mr. Morton, I hope you won't cave under these requests. I do understand that they are very well intentioned, like the resolution is, but there is a reason to call out, as Ms. Van Valkenburg-Walden pointed out, there is a reason to call these things out, and it is important to note these differences so that they can be addressed and not just ignored.
Anyone else? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to excuse the absent member.
Mr. President,
Mr. Culberson.
make a motion, we excuse the absent member.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Culbertson, second by Mr. Schultmeyer to excuse the absent member. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Then I showed 2 ordinances for next week. Ordinance to transfer an additional appropriation, an ordinance to update Chapter 105 of the codified ordinances, and resolution number 2, corrected ordinance number 2. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Hold on 1 second, and please don't forget to do reports for your scouts. Okay, Mr. Culbertson.
I don't recall if we put those motions on the table. I know we did the resolution, but I don't recall
Oh, you
putting the additional appropriations on the tables or the ordinances.
I had mine. No, you are correct. My bad. I was looking at the wrong section. Do I have a motion to put ordinance the transfer and additional appropriation ordinance on the table?
Mr. President, I'll make that motion to put those ordinances on the table.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Motion by Mr. Culbertson, second by Mr. Morton, excuse me, by Mr. Morton to place the ordinance transfer and additional appropriation ordinance on the table. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. And also to the updates for Chapter 105. Motion, Mr. Culbertson.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we put the updates to Chapter 105 on the table for the next meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Culbertson, second by Mr. Schultmeyer to place the updates to Chapter 105 on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. While we're at it, will you make a motion to place, I think, I had that one, yeah.
The resolution we did.
The resolution I did,
Yep.
yeah, okay. All right, that makes everything then. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Mr. Culbertson.
make a motion, we adjourn.
A motion by Mr. Culbertson, second by Mr. Schultmeyer to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.